Welcome to Stellar Sleep Tales. The Earth appears calm. From the surface, it looks like a planet at rest. Mountains standing silently against the horizon, oceans stretching endlessly in blue stillness, and cities humming gently with human life. To our eyes, the world feels solid, dependable, and steady. Yet beneath this quiet skin, something ancient stirs, something restless, something alive. The ground beneath us is not as still as we imagine. It shifts, it bends, it creaks under the enormous pressures of forces we cannot see. The earth, in its own slow, patient rhythm, is breathing, and sometimes that breath grows heavy. Sometimes it trembles with fury. This is the story of earthquakes. Not the gentle rattles that pass in seconds, but the titans of seismic power, the megaquakes. They are the hidden giants of our planet, slumbering for centuries, storing energy, and waiting for the moment when silence breaks into unimaginable violence. Tonight, we enter their world, calm in our beds, yet drifting into the deep, uneasy heartbeat of the earth itself. The illusion of stillness. When you stand on solid ground, there is comfort in believing it will never move. The soil feels steady beneath your feet, the pavement feels firm, the mountains look eternal. But this is only an illusion, a fragile mask worn by a restless planet. Imagine for a moment that the earth were transparent. Imagine you could see beneath the thin crust, a crust no thicker in proportion than an eggshell around a vast sphere. You would see enormous slabs of rock called tectonic plates slowly drifting across a sea of molten rock. These plates move with the patience of eternity, sliding against each other, colliding or pulling apart. To us, their pace is invisible, just a few centimeters a year. Yet over centuries and millennia, this movement builds incredible strain. Like a bowstring being pulled tighter and tighter, the earth stores energy, and when the moment comes it can no longer hold, the string snaps, the ground breaks, the giant awakens. Earth's way of breathing. Scientists often describe earthquakes as the earth releasing tension. It is, in a sense, a kind of exhale, a sudden letting go of centuries of built-up stress. But this breath is unlike anything else in nature. When a quake begins, waves of energy ripple through the planet. The ground itself moves like water, rolling in slow undulations or cracking violently in jerks. Buildings sway as if caught in invisible currents. The air fills with a low, unearthly roar, a sound like thunder emerging from the soil. For humans, these moments are terrifying. But for the Earth, this is simply a cycle. This is the way the planet lives and shifts. We see chaos, but the Earth is simply adjusting its bones. Megaquakes, those rare, massive events above magnitude 8 or 9, are the planet's deepest sighs, its most powerful breaths. They remind us that our world is not a rock, dead and still, but a living system in motion, always seeking balance. The giants slumber. The most haunting truth about megaquakes is their silence. They do not come with loud warnings. They do not announce themselves with fire or storms. They wait. For decades, for centuries, a fault line may sleep quietly, Life builds around it. Cities rise, children are born, generations pass. The silence convinces us that the danger is gone. But deep in the rocks, stress is building. The giant sleeps, but it dreams restlessly. When at last it wakes, it does so in an instant. The ground tears open, roads split, oceans may rise in tsunamis, and the life that flourished in the silence is suddenly shaken into memory. A whisper from the past. Throughout history, humans have sensed this hidden power. Ancient civilizations spoke of gods who shook the ground in anger. The Greeks believed Poseidon, god of the sea, also ruled earthquakes, his trident striking the earth to cause tremors. In Japan, legends told of a giant catfish, Namatsu, trapped beneath the islands, thrashing its tail whenever it stirred. In South America, Incan tradition saw the earth as a living being, quaking when it grew restless. These myths carried more truth than they realized. They understood the earth was alive, even if science had not yet named tectonic plates or seismic faults. People looked at the trembling ground and saw something greater than themselves, a force beyond control, beyond reason. And in many ways, they were right. The hidden fury. What makes megaquakes different from ordinary earthquakes is not only their strength, but their reach. A small quake might rattle a single town, but a megaquake reshapes entire regions. The 1960 Chile earthquake, the largest ever recorded, shook not just a nation, but the whole planet. Its energy was so vast that it shifted the Earth's axis by tiny fractions of a degree, shortening the length of the day. Think about that for a moment. A single rupture in the crust of one country was powerful enough to change the rotation of the entire planet. That is the scale of a sleeping giant's fury. And yet, after the chaos, the earth grows silent again. The giant returns to its slumber. Cities are rebuilt, memories fade, and once more, people believe the danger has passed. The fragile comfort of now. As you listen tonight, you may feel safe. The walls around you do not shake. The floor beneath you does not shift. But the truth is, at this very moment, somewhere beneath the oceans or deep under mountain ranges, the earth is storing stress. Pressure is quietly building, invisible and unstoppable. No one knows when the next megaquake will strike. It may be tomorrow or 100 years from now. It may happen in a place where scientists are watching closely, or in a forgotten fault that no one expects. This uncertainty is part of the mystery, part of the reason earthquakes capture both our fear and our wonder. Because even in the age of satellites, supercomputers, and space travel, the Earth still holds secrets we cannot unlock. The invitation to drift deeper. And so, tonight, we begin our journey into this hidden world. Not with fear, but with curiosity. Not with panic, but with calm. For to understand megaquakes is to understand the restless heart of our planet. We will wander through history, hearing stories of quakes that changed civilizations. We will travel beneath the crust into the molten rhythms of the Earth's core. We will stand at the edges of great fault lines, feeling the silence before the storm. And we will imagine the future, what may come, and how humanity will endure. This is not a tale of destruction alone. It is a story of resilience, of survival, of learning to live on a planet that is never still. And so as you close your eyes and let your body rest, let your mind drift deeper into the trembling heartbeat of the earth itself. Imagine the giant asleep beneath you, vast and ancient, breathing slowly. Imagine the silence, the waiting, the hidden fury that is both terrifying and beautiful. The giant is not our enemy. It is part of the Earth's life, the very life that allows us to exist here. Without the shifting of plates, there would be no mountains, no valleys, no continents. Without the Earth's restlessness, the world would not be what it is. And so we begin. The Earth sleeps, but not peacefully. Its bones creak, its breath stirs, its dreams tremble. The giant lies beneath us, hidden but alive. As we drift into this tale, we step softly into its world, the world of megaquakes, the planet's hidden fury. The silence will not last forever, but for now, listen. The giant dreams. Beneath our feet, the ground feels solid. Roads stretch out in steady lines. Mountains rise as though they were carved into eternity, and valleys seem as if they have always been there. Yet this sense of permanence is only an illusion, for under the thin skin of the earth lies a restless heart, beating in slow, patient rhythms that shape the world. Tonight, we drift beneath that skin. We travel below the mountains and rivers, below the soil and stone, into the hidden machinery of the earth. And there, we will discover that nothing is truly still. The fragile skin. Imagine holding an egg in your hand. Its shell feels firm, protective, yet delicate. That is what Earth's crust truly is. A fragile shell, no thicker in proportion than the skin of an apple or the shell of an egg. Beneath it lies a vast mantle of molten rock, swirling in convection currents, hot as the memory of creation itself. The crust we walk upon is broken, not whole. It is divided into immense slabs called tectonic plates, each one floating on the softer mantle below. These plates are unimaginably large, continents carried upon their backs, oceans stretched across their surfaces, and though they move with the patience of eons, they are always in motion. The slow dance of plates. Picture continents drifting like rafts upon a fiery sea. Some plates slide past one another, edges grinding with stubborn friction. Others push together, colliding in slow motion, raising mountains skyward. Still others pull apart, tearing open rifts where magma rises to create new land. This motion is called plate tectonics, and it is the great, slow dance of the Earth. To us, the movement seems invisible. A few centimeters a year, no faster than our fingernails grow. Yet over millions of years, it is enough to move continents across the globe, to open oceans, to close seas, to tear apart supercontinents and form new ones. What feels eternal to us is only a fleeting moment in this dance. The Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes, all are sculptures carved by the patient collision of plates. And with every collision, with every slip and grind, the Earth stores energy. The building of pressure. Think of a bow pulled tight. The string grows tense, the pressure mounting with every pull, until at last it is released in a sudden, violent snap. The same is true beneath our feet. Where plates lock together, they resist movement. But the mantle below continues to push, to shift, to flow. Stress builds silently in the rocks. For years, for centuries, nothing may seem to change. Villages rise, forests grow, generations live and die in peace. Yet deep below, the Earth's tension coils tighter. And then, in a moment too brief to imagine, the lock breaks. The stress is released. The ground shudders. Energy that has been building for lifetimes escapes in seconds. This is the heartbeat of the Earth. Slow in its gathering, sudden in its release. A restless core. The driving force behind this endless motion lies even deeper, in the fiery mantle and the molten outer core. Here, heat left from the planet's birth mixes with the energy of radioactive decay, creating convection currents. Imagine a pot of water set to boil. The hot liquid rises, the cooler liquid sinks, swirling endlessly. The mantle behaves the same way, though it is not liquid in the way water is, but rather hot, pliable rock flowing over immense timescales. These currents drag the tectonic plates above them, moving them inch by inch across the globe. At the very center of Earth lies the inner core, a solid sphere of iron and nickel. It beats like a drum of fire, its heat radiating outward, driving the mantle's restless churning. In this way, the planet itself is alive with motion, every tremor a reminder of its fiery heart. Beneath our feet, never still. When we stand upon the ground, we trust it. We believe it is firm, permanent, yet in truth we are riding on rafts of stone that drift upon fire. The continents beneath our homes, our cities, our histories, are only passengers in a greater journey. Sometimes the movement is so slow that we notice nothing, only the gradual rise of a mountain range or the sinking of a coastline. But at other times, the Earth reminds us of its hidden life in sudden, violent beats. The ground shakes, mountains shift, and the illusion of stillness shatters. These are the moments we call earthquakes. But they are more than just disasters. They are the Earth's way of breathing, the natural rhythm of a living world. The beauty of motion. Though we fear earthquakes, it is this very restlessness that has given us the world we know. Without tectonic plates, there would be no towering mountains, no deep ocean trenches, no continents drifting apart to create the diversity of life. The Rockies, the Andes, the Himalayas, all are monuments to collision. The Pacific Ring of Fire, with its volcanoes and quakes, is the product of plates sliding beneath one another. Even the air we breathe owes itself in part to the cycling of gases through volcanic eruptions driven by plate movement. The Earth shakes, yes, but in doing so it shapes, it builds, it renews. The patience of giants. Tectonic plates remind us of time on a scale far beyond human lives. A single lifetime may see only a few quakes, a few shudders of the ground. But across centuries, the plates carve mountains and erase seas. They are sculptures working in stone, patient and relentless. To listen to the heartbeat of the Earth is to step into this vast timescale, to understand that the tremors we feel are not random, but part of a grander rhythm, a rhythm that began billions of years ago when the planet first cooled, and that will continue long after we are gone. A gentle warning. As you rest tonight, remember, beneath the silence of soil and stone, the Earth is never truly still. It carries us forward, across drifting plates, over fault lines locked with tension. Somewhere stress is building. Somewhere a future quake is waiting. Yet this is not a cause for fear, but for awe. To live on Earth is to live upon a restless planet, a world that breathes and shifts and dreams. We are not separate from it, but part of its rhythm. And so, as we listen to its heartbeat, slow, powerful, eternal, we find both humility and wonder. The Earth's crust may seem solid, but it is only a fragile shell. Beneath it flows fire, and above it, life. Between these two forces, the heartbeat of the Earth continues, steady, patient, unstoppable. Beneath our feet, the ground is never truly still. And in that restless silence lies both the danger and the beauty of our world.
When we think of earthquakes, today we picture graphs, seismographs, satellites, and scientists studying faults. But for most of human history, there were no instruments, no charts, no scientific names. There was only the trembling ground, the sudden roar, and the mystery of why the solid earth, the very thing people trusted most, could betray them without warning. The earliest humans must have felt it first as terror. Imagine standing in a quiet ancient village, fires glowing softly, the night sky stretching above. Then, suddenly, the ground begins to shift beneath bare feet. Clay walls rattle, stones tumble, voices rise in panic. What words could explain it? What language could capture the feeling of the earth itself rebelling? For those early people, the only answer was myth. The quake was the hand of a god, the tail of a beast, the anger of spirits beneath the soil. And so, across the world, stories were born, stories that gave form to the shaking ground. The gods who shook the earth. In ancient Greece, the people turned to Poseidon. He was the god of the sea, but also the earth shaker. With his mighty trident, he was said to strike the sea floor, sending tremors rippling through the land. When the earth shook, it was Poseidon's wrath, a reminder of his power and his dominion. In Japan, the story was different, but just as vivid. Beneath the islands, people believed, lived Namatsu, a colossal catfish trapped under the rocks. When Namatsu thrashed his tail, the earth trembled and cities fell. Only the god Kashima could keep the creature pinned with a heavy stone, but sometimes Kashima grew weary and Namatsu stirred. The ground shook, houses crumbled, and legends grew stronger with each disaster. Far across the oceans, in the Andes of South America, the Inca believed the earth itself was alive. They called her Pachamama, Mother Earth, and when she grew restless, she quaked. To calm her, offerings were made, gifts of food, corn or coca leaves, given with prayers. A quake was not just destruction, it was communication. Pachamama reminding her children of her strength. Even in the far north, the Vikings had their story. They believed a monstrous wolf, Fenrir, shook the ground as it struggled against the gods' chains. Every tremor was the wolf pulling harder, a warning of the chaos to come. Across continents, across centuries, humanity found the same pattern. When the ground trembled, it was never seen as random. It was always a message, a punishment, a stirring of something vast and unseen. The first records. But even as myths grew, so too did the first attempts to record reality. In China, nearly 2,000 years ago, the Han Dynasty created the first earthquake detector, a great bronze vessel with dragons carved around its sides. When a quake occurred, a ball would drop from a dragon's mouth into the open mouth of a frog below, showing the direction of the tremor. It was a brilliant invention, centuries before modern science, proof that people longed to understand, not just fear. In Greece, the philosopher Aristotle wrote of quakes as winds trapped inside the earth, rushing through underground caves. He was wrong, but his words show the first steps from myth to explanation. Humanity was beginning to wonder. Perhaps it was not gods, but nature itself, moving in ways we did not yet know. Japan kept some of the oldest written earthquake records, describing devastating quakes as far back as the year 599.
These accounts spoke not just of destruction, but of the rituals that followed: offerings, prayers, and rebuilding. For the Japanese, quakes became part of life, woven into the culture of resilience. South America, too, held memories in stone. In Peru, the ancient city of Cusco was built with massive walls of interlocking stone blocks. The Inca knew quakes would come, and so they designed their buildings to withstand tremors. Even today, those ancient walls still stand, their seams so precise that not even a blade of grass can slide between the stones. What is striking when we look back is how much truth hid inside the stories. The Japanese catfish thrashing under the land was not so far from the real image of tectonic plates grinding against each other. The Greeks imagining Poseidon striking the sea with his trident were unknowingly linking quakes to the oceans, a connection we now know is real through subduction zones. The Inca, calling the earth a living being, understood something essential. The ground beneath us is not lifeless stone, but part of a restless, dynamic system. Science has replaced myth, but the awe remains. Because even now, even with seismographs and satellites, we still cannot predict the exact moment the Earth will shake. In that sense, we are not so different from our ancestors, listening for whispers in the silence, waiting for the next awakening. Earthquakes that shaped civilizations. Some quakes did more than terrify. They altered history itself. In the year 373 BCE, the Greek city of Helike vanished in a single night. Legends say the earth quaked, the ground split, and the sea rose to swallow the city. For centuries, Helike was only a story, a lost Atlantis of Greece. But in recent times, archaeologists uncovered its ruins, buried in sediment. Myth and history entwined. In Japan, the great Nankai earthquakes repeated every century or two, reshaping coasts, flooding plains, and teaching generations that stability was only temporary. The cycle of quake and recovery became part of the Japanese spirit, a balance between fragility and resilience. In the Andes, quakes shook temples and toppled empires. Spanish conquerors arriving in the 16th century were shocked to see entire cities destroyed not by war, but by the ground itself. For the local people, it was Pachamama's will, stronger than any foreign invader. Even in the Bible, earthquakes appear as signs, when the ground shook at Mount Sinai or when the temple veil tore as the earth trembled. For ancient people everywhere, the quaking ground was a language of the divine, a bridge between fear and wonder. As centuries passed, humanity learned more. The earth was mapped, faults were named, and science began to explain what myths once carried. But something remains the same: the feeling. When the ground shakes, when walls groan and stones rattle, when the air hums with a sound that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere, the experience is still primal. No matter how advanced we become, in that moment, we are like the ancients again, small, fragile, standing on a living planet far bigger than ourselves. That is why the myths live. They remind us that earthquakes are not just geological events, but stories of gods, beasts, and restless earth, stories of fear, survival, and memory, stories that stretch from the dawn of time into our present. Drifting forward. As we drift deeper into this journey, let us carry both truths with us: the science of tectonic plates and the myths of gods and monsters. For both speak of the same mystery. The earth is alive, never still, always waiting. The ancients felt it first, without instruments or charts. They felt the trembling heartbeat of the planet. And though their words were different, their meaning was clear. The earth we walk upon is not asleep forever. It dreams. It stirs. It remembers. And one day, it wakes. Beneath the quiet landscapes of our world, there are lines most cannot see. They do not run like rivers or roads. They do not mark borders on a map. Instead, they lie hidden, stretching deep beneath mountains, valleys, and oceans. These are the fault zones, the great cracks in the Earth's armor. To the untrained eye, the ground above them may look peaceful. Rolling hills, green forests, shining cities. But beneath, tension gathers. Rock grinds against rock. Pressure builds in silence. And when it can no longer be contained, the world above is changed forever. These silent fault lines are the Earth's greatest secrets. They wait, holding their breath, for years or even centuries, and in their silence lies the promise of fury. The San Andreas Fault, a slumbering border. Stretching more than 1,200 kilometers across California, the San Andreas Fault is one of the most famous cracks in the planet's surface. To walk above it is to walk upon a border, not between nations, but between tectonic plates. To the west lies the Pacific Plate, slowly drifting north. To the east, the North American Plate, grinding south. Each year, they slip past one another by just a few centimeters, a pace slower than fingernails grow, and yet every inch builds tension. The land bends and strains like a spring being wound tighter and tighter. For most days, the San Andreas is quiet. Cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco hum with life above it. Freeways snake across it. Farms, towns, and rivers rest along its length. Few stop to think about the restless line beneath. But history remembers. In 1906, San Francisco was shaken to its core. The fault ruptured, unleashing an earthquake so fierce it destroyed much of the city and sparked fires that raged for days. The ground had slipped, and with it, lives were torn apart. Since then, smaller quakes have rattled the fault, but the silence between great ruptures is long. Scientists warn that the southern section, near Los Angeles, has not seen a major quake in more than 300 years. The bow has been pulled tight, and in that silence lies suspense, for one day it will release. Cascadia, the quiet giant of the Pacific Northwest. North of California, along the coasts of Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia, lies another fault, but this one is different. It does not announce itself with frequent tremors, as the San Andreas does. Cascadia is quiet, eerily quiet. This is a subduction zone, where one plate dives beneath another. The Juan de Fuca Plate slides under the North American Plate, sinking slowly into the Earth's mantle. On the surface, all seems calm. Dense forests sway in the wind, cities bustle, the ocean waves roll steadily onto the shore. But beneath that calm, the two plates are locked together. For centuries, they have pressed against each other, unable to move. And like two wrestlers frozen in a deadlock, the pressure grows. In January of the year 1700, the silence broke. Without warning, Cascadia slipped. A megaquake, estimated at magnitude 9.0, shook the Pacific Northwest. Coastlines dropped, forests were swallowed by the sea, and a tsunami raced across the Pacific, striking Japan with waves recorded in their ancient chronicles. Since then, Cascadia has been still again. Over 300 years of silence. Scientists say the pressure today is immense. One day, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps centuries from now, it will break again. When it does, cities like Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver will feel the full weight of the ocean and the earth combined. Cascadia is the silent giant, not forgotten, but waiting. The Himalayas, mountains born of collision. On the other side of the world, another fault zone shapes the very roof of the earth. The Himalayas, vast, towering, snow-capped, were born from the slow, relentless collision of India and Eurasia. The Indian plate pushes north, crashing into Asia, and the mountains rise as their monument. But beauty is only half the story. Beneath the peaks lies one of the most dangerous fault zones on Earth. The collision that raised Everest continues to this day, inch by inch. And as the land presses, pressure builds. Throughout history, great Himalayan quakes have shattered cities and villages. In 1934,
Nepal was struck by a quake so fierce it leveled Kathmandu and claimed tens of thousands of lives. More recently, in 2015, another quake shook Nepal, toppling temples, burying villages, and reminding the world of the fragility of life beneath these mighty peaks. Scientists warn that the Himalayas, too, are overdue for another great rupture. The plates remain locked, and the energy stored is immense. Like a bow drawn tighter and tighter, it waits in silence. Silence as a warning. These fault lines, San Andreas, Cascadia, the Himalayas, are more than scars on the earth. They are warnings written into the stone beneath our feet. Their silence is not safety. Their stillness is not peace. It is tension gathering, invisible but unstoppable. It is easy to forget. We build our homes, plant our gardens, raise our cities on this shifting ground. We treat the land as permanent. Yet the earth is alive, and its quietest places can be its most dangerous. Imagine a bowstring, pulled back inch by inch. The archer waits, patient, steady. No sound is made, no movement seen. But the energy builds, and when the string is released, it is sudden, swift, and unstoppable. This is the nature of the silent fault lines. Living on the edge. And yet, billions live above these hidden giants. They farm, they build, they dream, never far from the cracks that shape their world. For humans, danger is often the cost of beauty. California's coasts, the green forests of Cascadia, the peaks of the Himalayas, they draw us, inspire us, and hold us close. To live near a fault is to live with uncertainty, but it is also to live with resilience. Generations have learned to prepare, to adapt, to rebuild when the earth reminds them of its power. The silent fault lines may one day awaken, but until then, life goes on above them, unaware, or perhaps simply accepting that the ground beneath is never truly still. The San Andreas waits, Cascadia waits, the Himalayas wait, each a bowstring drawn, each a silence heavy with promise. They are cracks in the earth's armor, reminders that our planet is restless. And as we drift into rest, we carry this thought, that beneath the calm landscapes, beneath the forests, the mountains, and the seas, there is motion, slow, steady, hidden. The earth is never asleep. It only waits.
The earth has always been restless. Its skin cracks, its bones shift, and from time to time it shakes so fiercely that the world above is forever changed. In the past, giants have risen, in Chile, in Sumatra, in Japan. But what of the future? Where might the earth stir next? Scientists study the silent places, the stretches of land and sea where tension grows quietly, invisibly. These are the zones where the earth holds its breath, places where centuries of stillness hide centuries of pressure. They are the sleeping beasts of the future, calm for now, but destined to awaken. Cascadia, the patient giant. Along the Pacific Northwest of North America, from Northern California through Oregon, Washington, and into Canada's British Columbia, lies the Cascadia Subduction Zone. To the eye, it is a place of calm. Green forests stretch to the horizon. Rugged coastlines face the gray Pacific waves. Towns and cities thrive. But beneath that calm, two tectonic plates are locked in a slow embrace. The small Juan de Fuca plate presses beneath the mighty North American plate. For centuries they have been stuck, neither moving, neither releasing. And so pressure builds. Scientists know what this means. The last time Cascadia slipped was in the year 1700. The quake was so vast that it sent a tsunami across the Pacific, recorded in Japan's ancient scrolls. Over 300 years have passed since then. Geologists say the clock is ticking. When Cascadia awakens again, it could unleash a quake of magnitude 9.0 or higher. The shaking would rattle cities like Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver. The sea would follow, swallowing coastlines, racing inland. Millions of lives could be changed in a single day. Cascadia waits, silent, still, a beast slumbering under forests and waves. The Himalayas, the mountains of tension. Far across the ocean, the highest mountains in the world hide another beast. The Himalayas, crowned by Everest, stand as monuments to a collision that has lasted millions of years. The Indian plate presses northward, colliding with Eurasia, and the mountains rise higher still. But the collision is not smooth. The land jams and sticks, refusing to move. And as the plates grind, tension builds beneath the peaks. Entire nations, Nepal, India, Bhutan, Pakistan, Tibet, rest upon this restless frontier. History has already felt the fury. The 1934 quake flattened Nepal. The 2015 quake crumbled temples and villages, killing thousands. And scientists warn, these were not the end. The plates remain locked. The pressure remains. The bow is still drawn. Someday, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps 100 years from now, the Himalayas will release again. And when they do, the shaking will ripple through valleys, across cities, through the very bones of the mountains. They wait, and they will awaken. The Pacific Ring of Fire, a circle of restlessness. Stretching in a vast horseshoe shape around the Pacific Ocean lies the Pacific Ring of Fire. It is not one beast, but many, a chain of fault zones and volcanoes that encircle the ocean. From the coasts of South America to Alaska, from Japan down through Indonesia, the Pacific Ring of Fire is the most seismically active region on Earth. Here, the planet never truly rests. Quakes rumble daily, small reminders of the restless plates. Volcanoes erupt, islands rise and sink, the land is remade again and again. But scattered among the small tremors are places of silence, zones where centuries pass without great quakes. These are the dangerous ones. Like Cascadia, like the Himalayas, they hold their fury until it cannot be contained. Scientists watch closely. The coast of Chile, where past giants have already struck. The trenches near Japan, where quakes and tsunamis have reshaped history. The islands of Indonesia, where the sea hides hidden scars. Any one of these could host the next megaquake. Any one could shake the Earth in ways we can scarcely imagine. The mystery of the unknown. Science can measure strain, map fault lines, and study the scars of the past. But it cannot predict the exact moment when a beast will awaken. That mystery remains. We know where the danger lies. We know which zones are quiet, which bows are drawn, but we do not know the hour, the day, or the year. The Earth keeps that secret for itself. And so humanity waits alongside the Earth. Engineers strengthen buildings, scientists refine warning systems, communities prepare evacuation plans. But still, we wait. The silence grows heavier with time, and when it breaks, the world will remember again the power of the ground beneath. A calm reflection. To speak of these sleeping beasts is not to inspire fear, but to awaken respect. The earth has always trembled. It has always shifted, always reshaped itself. Megaquakes are not new. They are part of the planet's long story. And yet, in that story, there is also us, humanity. Fragile, yes, but enduring. We live on the edges of these giants because they also give us life. Fertile soils, rich oceans, breathtaking mountains. We build our cities upon their shoulders, even as we know they may one day shake. The beasts will awaken, in their time, but so too will we endure in ours. Cascadia, the Himalayas, the Pacific Ring of Fire. Each a place of silence, each a place of waiting. They are the Earth's sleeping beasts, calm for now, but heavy with the weight of centuries. They wait, and they will awaken. And as we close our eyes tonight, we remember, the earth beneath us is alive. Not cruel, not kind, simply alive. And in its life, it dreams.
There are moments when the earth's fury does not end with shaking ground, when the quake itself is only the beginning, and a second giant awakens. That giant is the sea. For most of us, the ocean is a place of calm. Its waves roll gently onto the shore. Its tides keep steady time with the moon, and its endless blue seems to hold a quiet peace. But when the earth shifts beneath it, the ocean transforms. It rises, it runs, and it roars ashore with unstoppable force. This is what happens when land meets ocean, when megaquakes stir the sleeping water. The first movements. Deep beneath the waves, tectonic plates collide. One slides under another, dragging the seafloor down with it. For centuries, the pressure builds, and then, in a single moment, the plate snaps upward. The seafloor leaps, and with it, billions of tons of seawater are displaced. The ocean does not like to be disturbed. It responds by rushing outward, wave after wave, carrying the energy of the quake across vast distances. Unlike the crashing surf we know from beaches, these waves are not obvious at first. Out in the deep ocean, a tsunami can be almost invisible, just a swelling of the sea, a long ripple racing at the speed of a jet liner. But as the waves approach shallow shores, they rise. The calm blue becomes a towering wall of water, a moving cliff, unstoppable and immense. The Indian Ocean, 2004. The most haunting memory of ocean fury remains December 26, 2004. Off the coast of Sumatra, a quake of magnitude 9.1 shifted the seafloor by meters. In that instant, the ocean was set in motion. Minutes later, waves taller than buildings struck the Indonesian coast. Villages vanished, boats were hurled inland. Families who had begun their morning routines found themselves swept away in darkness and foam. The tsunami did not stop there. It raced outward across the Indian Ocean, striking Thailand's beaches, Sri Lanka's coasts, the shores of India, and faraway Africa. By the time it ended, more than 200,000 lives were lost. The sea, usually a source of life and livelihood, had revealed its other face, immense, merciless power. Japan, 2011. 7 years later, the world watched as another quake set the ocean in motion. On March 11, 2011, the Pacific off Japan ruptured in a magnitude 9.0 earthquake. The land shook for 6 endless minutes, and then the water rose. In some places, the waves reached more than 40 meters high. Entire towns were swallowed. Cars and ships floated like toys. Airports, fields, and villages disappeared under the rushing tide. And beyond the physical destruction came another crisis, the flooding of Fukushima's nuclear power plant, sparking explosions and radiation leaks. The ocean had not only taken lives, but had reshaped the future of energy and safety in Japan. A pattern written in water. These tsunamis are not rare accidents. They are part of the Earth's cycle, written in the meeting of land and sea. Wherever great quakes strike offshore, the possibility of waves follows. The Pacific, the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, all have known this story. What makes them chilling is their silence. The water first pulls back, retreating from the shore, exposing sands and reefs that have not been touched for centuries. People stare in wonder at the strange sight. Children run onto the empty seabed to pick up stranded fish. But this calm is not safety. It is the warning. Within minutes, the water returns faster, higher, and deadlier than before. Like the quakes themselves, tsunamis are reminders of how swiftly the ordinary can become extraordinary, how quickly a calm morning can turn into history. The ocean's reach. Unlike quakes, which destroy the land directly beneath them, tsunamis share their fury across nations. A wave born in one place may take lives half a world away. The ocean connects us all, and so its wrath, too, is shared. That is why scientists build warning systems, networks of sensors and satellites to detect the first stirrings of the sea. Today, sirens and alerts give some chance of escape. People can run to higher ground, sometimes with only minutes to spare. Yet even with warnings, the power of the sea is often greater than any human plan. Lessons in resilience. And yet, amidst the devastation, stories of survival rise like lights in the dark. In Thailand in 2004, a young girl remembered a school lesson about tsunamis. When she saw the water retreat, she urged her family to flee inland. Dozens followed her, and they survived. In Japan in 2011, entire communities practiced evacuation drills. Some villages reached high ground in time to save hundreds of lives. Their preparation became their shield. The ocean may awaken in fury, but humanity responds with memory, with learning, with resilience. When land meets ocean, the earth writes its most dramatic chapters. The quake shakes the ground, but the sea carries its echo across horizons. It is a partnership of fury, stone and water, depth and wave, silence and roar. They wait together, land and ocean, for the next moment when the earth shifts. And when it does, both will awaken. But as we drift into rest, we remember, the ocean is not only destruction, it is also beauty, life, and endless calm. Its fury is rare, its silence long, and in that silence we are given time. Time to prepare, time to learn, time to respect the sleeping giant of the sea.
When the shaking stops and the ocean returns to stillness, there is a silence unlike any other. The world feels paused, as if the earth itself holds its breath. Dust hangs in the air. The cries of the frightened and the injured echo through broken streets. What was once familiar A home, a school, a temple, a street corner is now unrecognizable. This is the moment after, the moment when destruction lies in plain sight and humanity is left with the most difficult task of all, to begin again. Picking up the pieces is not just about rebuilding walls and roads. It is about mending lives, restoring hope, and finding meaning in the ruins. It is here, in the aftermath of disaster, that the resilience of the human spirit is revealed most clearly. The first days. In the first hours after a megaquake, survival is the only thought. People dig with bare hands through rubble, searching for family, friends, and neighbors. Strangers help strangers, guided not by instruction, but by instinct. Rescue teams arrive, some local, some from nations across the sea. They carry equipment, dogs trained to find life, and supplies for the injured. Yet even with their strength, it is the survivors themselves who often save the most lives, pulling one another from collapsed homes and guiding the injured to safety. Electricity is gone. Water lines are broken. Roads are cracked or buried. Yet in the midst of ruin, human kindness takes root. Meals are shared. Blankets are passed from one family to another. Children are comforted. The earth shakes to remind us of our fragility, but in the hours after, we remind ourselves of our strength. The struggle of rebuilding. Days turn into weeks. The rubble must be cleared, the injured treated, the dead mourned. Then begins the long journey of rebuilding. Houses must rise again, stronger this time, with walls designed to bend instead of break. Schools must reopen, giving children both safety and routine. Hospitals, temples, and markets must return, each piece restoring not just structure, but spirit. This is not easy. For those who have lost everything, even hope can feel heavy. But rebuilding is also healing. With every brick laid, with every beam raised, people remind themselves, life continues. In Japan after 2011, survivors spoke of ganbat, a word meaning endure, do your best. It was repeated in shelters, in schools, in temporary homes. In Chile after 1960, whole villages rebuilt together, sharing tools and labor. In Nepal after 2015, even in the shadow of collapsed temples, songs of prayer and resilience filled the air. The earth may destroy in moments, but humanity rebuilds day by day, hand by hand. Memory as strength. What is lost in a quake is not only physical, it is memory. Streets where laughter once echoed vanish into rubble. Temples that stood for centuries fall in an instant. The grief is more than material. It is cultural, spiritual, generational. And yet memory is also a tool of survival. Those who live through disaster carry stories forward. They teach their children to recognize the signs, to run when the ocean retreats, to gather supplies when the ground shakes. Knowledge becomes an inheritance, a shield for the future. In some Japanese villages, stone markers stand near the coast, carved with warnings. Do not build homes below this point. These were placed centuries ago after tsunamis long forgotten by most, yet the stones remember. And where their warnings were heeded, lives were saved. In this way, the ruins of yesterday become the protections of tomorrow. The global community. Disasters reveal another truth. Though quakes strike locally, Their impact is global. When the Earth shakes in one place, the world responds. After the 2004 tsunami, nations sent aid ships, planes, doctors, and volunteers. Donations flowed from people who'd never set foot in Sumatra or Sri Lanka, but who felt the pull of shared humanity. After Nepal's quake in 2015, mountaineers abandoned their climbs to help dig survivors from rubble. In Chile, after 2010, international engineers worked alongside locals to design stronger schools. The Earth may divide us with oceans and mountains, but in its moments of fury, it reminds us that we are one. The pieces we pick up are not just local, they are global. A new way of living. Rebuilding after disaster is not only about restoring the old, it is about imagining the new. Stronger buildings, better warning systems, safer communities. Out of the ruins, new ways of living emerge. Japan built seawalls and refined its emergency alerts. Indonesia installed buoys and sensors across the Indian Ocean to detect future tsunamis. Chile strengthened its building codes so that homes and schools sway but do not collapse. Each disaster becomes a teacher, each scar becomes a lesson. And though the cost is heavy, humanity grows stronger, wiser, more prepared. Perhaps the most remarkable part of picking up the pieces is not what is rebuilt, but how. In the rubble of Port-au-Prince after Haiti's 2010 quake, children gathered to sing together, their voices rising above the ruin. In Japan, survivors stood patiently in lines for food and water, calm and orderly, even as their towns lay in pieces. In Nepal, communities lit candles among collapsed temples, prayers flickering in the night. These acts do not rebuild walls, but they rebuild something deeper, the spirit. They remind us that while the earth may tremble, humanity does not break so easily. Megaquakes remind us of destruction, but the aftermath reminds us of something even greater, resilience. The ground may shatter, the sea may rise, but people will always pick up the pieces. Together, with patience and courage, they restore what was lost and carry forward the memory of those who did not survive. The earth is restless, but so is the human spirit, restless to heal, restless to rebuild, restless to continue. And so, as we drift deeper into this story, let us carry this truth with us. No matter how great the quake, no matter how vast the wave, life continues. Always.
The earth is always speaking. Beneath our feet, it hums with hidden vibrations, small shifts and tremors too delicate for us to feel. Scientists call them microquakes, whispers of movement deep within the crust. Most pass unnoticed, tiny murmurs of a restless planet. But hidden among them may lie clues, hints of the great quakes yet to come. For centuries, humans have asked the same question. Can we predict earthquakes? Can we listen closely enough to hear the Earth's warning before it roars? The ancient listeners. Long before seismographs or satellites, people relied on instinct and observation. Ancient Chinese texts tell of animals behaving strangely before quakes, dogs howling, snakes fleeing their holes, horses refusing to move. In Greece, philosophers noted that wells sometimes dried up or bubbled strangely before the ground shook. In Japan, fishermen told of the ocean retreating suddenly, a sign that something powerful was stirring below. These were the first listeners, attuned not to machines, but to nature itself. Their records remind us that the Earth does send signals. The challenge is understanding them. The birth of seismology. In the 19th century, scientists built the first instruments to capture the Earth's movements. A pen balanced on a suspended arm, scratching lines onto paper as the ground shifted. With each tremor, the ink traced jagged waves, the heartbeat of the Earth, captured in black and white. This was the beginning of seismology, the science of listening to the planet. By comparing patterns, scientists learned to locate quakes, measure their strength, and map the invisible boundaries of tectonic plates. But prediction remained elusive. The Earth spoke, yes, but never in a clear language. The modern hunt for signals. Today, the quest continues with tools far more advanced. Satellites orbit above, measuring the smallest bulges and dips in the Earth's surface. GPS networks track shifts inland, sometimes just a few millimeters a year. Deep in laboratories, supercomputers simulate the grinding of tectonic plates. Some scientists study gases like radon that may leak from rocks before a quake. Others measure tiny electrical changes in the ground, searching for hidden energy. Still others listen to the low-frequency sounds of the Earth, too deep for human ears, hoping to find a pattern. And yet, despite all this technology, a simple truth remains. We can forecast where earthquakes are likely to strike. We can even estimate their strength, but we cannot yet say when. The honest truth. Earthquakes are born in silence, pressure building invisibly for decades, centuries, or more. Unlike hurricanes, which form visibly in the sky, or volcanoes, which often give off smoke and rumblings, earthquakes hide their preparation. They wait in stillness and then strike without warning. Scientists can warn that a fault is overdue. They can say the Cascadia subduction zone may rupture in the next 100 years, but they cannot say it will happen tomorrow at noon. And so humanity lives with uncertainty, waiting, preparing, hoping to be ready when the silence breaks. Whispers of the future, early warning. Though we cannot predict, we can sometimes warn. Not before a quake begins, but in the first seconds after it starts. When an earthquake strikes, it releases two kinds of waves. The first, called P waves, are fast but weak, often unnoticed by humans. The second, S waves, are slower but far more destructive. Early warning systems use sensors to detect the P waves. In those precious seconds before the S waves arrive, alerts can be sent, phones buzzing, alarms sounding, trains slowing, surgeries paused. Sometimes it's only 5 seconds of warning, sometimes 30, but even a heartbeat of time can save lives. Japan, Mexico, and parts of the United States now use such systems. One day they may be everywhere, giving humanity just enough time to brace before the fury arrives. Listening with AI. A new listener has joined the quest, artificial intelligence. AI can sift through mountains of seismic data, spotting patterns invisible to humans. It can compare tremors across decades, searching for hidden rhythms in the Earth's restless movements. In some experiments, AI has successfully identified signals hours before small quakes. The hope is that one day it may catch the subtler whispers before a megaquake, signals too faint for traditional methods to hear. It is not certain. It may never be perfect, but it is a step closer to understanding the language of the Earth. Lessons in humility. Perhaps the greatest lesson of all is humility. We are creatures walking upon a living, shifting world. For all our science, we cannot yet command it nor always anticipate its moves. The Earth speaks in ways we only partly understand. And maybe that is fitting, for while we seek control, earthquakes remind us of mystery, that not all things can be predicted, not all things tamed. Sometimes we must simply prepare, endure, and learn. The whisper and the roar. In the end, prediction may not be about exact dates or times, but about wisdom, about knowing where the danger lies, building stronger homes, teaching children what to do when the ground moves, about listening, even if the language is unclear, because the earth rarely whispers before it roars. But if we listen closely enough, even the faintest murmur can teach us how to live more safely, more humbly, more in tune with the restless ground beneath our feet. And so we continue to listen, with seismographs, with satellites, with algorithms, and with our own quiet awareness. The earth will not reveal all its secrets, but in its whispers we find guidance. As you drift into rest, imagine those hidden vibrations, the endless rhythm of a planet alive, a reminder that beneath stillness there is motion, beneath silence a whisper, and that whisper may be the very thing that helps us endure the roar.
There is a phrase whispered in scientific circles, in newspapers, and in quiet conversations along the world's fault lines. The big one. It is not a single earthquake tied to one time or one place. It is a symbol, a reminder that the earth still holds power greater than anything we have yet endured. Somewhere, perhaps in our lifetime, perhaps in centuries to come, a quake will rise that shakes more than cities. It will shake imagination itself. What would it mean if a magnitude 10.0 were to strike? Not a tremor, not a strong quake, but the very edge of what Earth's shifting plates can unleash. The edge of possibility. A quake of such size has never been recorded in human history. The largest, in Chile in 1960, reached 9.5, and it reshaped coastlines, lifted mountains, and sent waves racing across oceans. A 10.0 would go beyond even that. Scientists debate whether it is possible at all. The plates of the Earth are vast, but to create a quake so immense, an extraordinary stretch of fault would need to rupture at once, hundreds, perhaps thousands of kilometers tearing in a single violent instant. And yet, though unlikely, it is not impossible. The planet is old, time is long. Somewhere in its deep history, events close to this scale may already have unfolded, their traces buried in rock and memory. If the earth shook. Imagine for a moment the world on the day of such an event. The ground does not simply shake, it rolls as if the land itself becomes an ocean. Skyscrapers sway like reeds in a storm. Mountains groan, valleys shudder, roads twist, crack, and fall away. Along the coast, the ocean withdraws in eerie silence, revealing the seabed, fish flopping helplessly in the sun. Then, with a force unimaginable, it returns, waves taller than buildings, rushing inland, swallowing harbors, ports, and cities alike. Airports fall silent, lights flicker and vanish. The hum of human civilization is replaced by the primal voice of a planet in motion. And yet, even in this imagining, the tone is not one of panic, but of awe. For in such a moment, humanity witnesses not destruction alone, but the full majesty of the earth, a reminder that we live upon a world alive, not fixed or still, but breathing and shifting in ways beyond our control.
cities trembling. Picture Tokyo, San Francisco, Santiago, or Jakarta, cities built upon fault lines, vibrant and alive with millions of people. In the event of the big one, towers designed to sway will do so with grace, bending but not breaking. Bridges will rise and fall as though on waves. Sirens will sing, guiding people to safety. Not all will hold. Some will crumble. Streets will vanish beneath rubble. But others will endure, monuments to human ingenuity. And in every shadow, in every corner of broken stone, people will reach for one another, proving again that survival is not just physical, but collective. Oceans rising. If the quake strikes beneath the sea, the water becomes its messenger. Tsunamis would ripple across entire oceans, reaching shores thousands of miles away. But the vision here is not one of fear. Instead, imagine the scale of it, the ocean itself responding to the Earth's movement, rising and falling like a giant inhaling and exhaling. From space, satellites would see the waves spread in circles, patterns etched upon the sea, as if the planet itself were sketching its story across blue canvas. For a brief moment, humanity would be reminded that the oceans are not separate from the land, but part of the same restless system, connected, alive, unyielding. The human story. In the face of such power, what would humanity do? The answer lies in history. For we have faced quakes before, not this size perhaps, but strong enough to flatten cities, drown coastlines, and silence entire regions. And every time, people have rebuilt. So too would it be with the big one. Aid would flow across borders. Neighbors would become rescuers. Engineers would rise to the challenge of building stronger, smarter. Children born after the quake would grow up not in ruins, but in cities reborn from stone and memory. The big one, for all its fury, would not be the end. It would be another chapter in the endless story of Earth and humanity, a story of tension, release, and renewal. The mystery of waiting. Perhaps the most haunting part of this tale is not the quake itself, but the waiting. For no one knows when it will come, or if it will come at all. The Cascadia subduction zone may lie silent for centuries more. The Himalayas may hold their breath for generations. The Pacific Ring of Fire may shift only in fragments, never unleashing its full power. And so we wait, not in fear, but in watchfulness. We build, we prepare, we teach. We live our lives upon a restless world, knowing that one day, somewhere, the silence may break. A calm reflection. And as night falls, and as you listen to this story in quiet stillness, remember, the earth is alive beneath you. Its power is immense, but so too is its patience. Quakes are rare, even the strongest. Days, years, centuries may pass with nothing but gentle tremors. If the big one comes in our lifetime, it will be remembered as awe, as challenge, as proof of the bond between Earth and its people. And if it does not, life continues as it always has, upon shifting ground. The big one is not just a quake. It is an idea, a reminder that beneath our feet the earth is restless, dreaming, waiting. And perhaps as you close your eyes, you can imagine it, not as terror, but as a lullaby of power, a reminder of the great forces that cradle our fragile existence.
For tomorrow's fury may come, or it may not. But tonight the earth whispers softly, and you are safe in its rhythm.
The story of megaquakes is not just a story of destruction. It is a story of a living world, a world whose heartbeat can be felt beneath our feet, a world whose restless shifting has shaped mountains, carved valleys, and given birth to oceans. From the first tremors recorded by ancient civilizations to the modern whispers caught by satellites and seismographs, we have seen again and again that the Earth is not silent. It is alive, it breathes, it shifts, it dreams. And like a giant in slumber, its movements are slow, patient, and powerful. The sleeping giant. Imagine the Earth as a giant resting beneath us. Its chest rises and falls with centuries instead of seconds. Its breaths are mountains forming, rivers changing course, continents drifting across oceans. Sometimes in its sleep it stirs, a twitch of muscle, a shift of weight. And when it does, we feel it as earthquakes. Some are gentle nudges, barely noticed. Others are violent awakenings, reshaping the land in moments. But always, after the stirring, the giant rests again, and life continues, woven into the rhythm of its endless dreaming. A world that moves. It is easy to believe the ground is still, that the soil beneath your feet is permanent, unchanging, a foundation for all things. And yet, beneath that surface lies motion. Tectonic plates drift like slow rivers of stone. Magma churns in silence. Pressure builds, released only when the giant turns in its sleep. Even as you listen now, the continents are moving, tiny distances measured in millimeters each year, yet enough to redraw the map of the world across ages. Africa slowly drifts toward Europe. The Pacific shrinks. The Himalayas rise, inch by inch, skyward. The Earth is not still. It never has been, and it never will be. Humanity and the Earth. We are small compared to this restless world. Our cities cling to fault lines. Our villages nestle beside oceans. Our lives unfold on shifting ground. And yet, despite our fragility, we endure. Every time the giant stirs, we rebuild. Every time the sea rises, we adapt. Every time stone and dust fall around us, we stand together, carrying forward the memory of what was lost and the hope of what will be again. We are part of the Earth's story, not separate from it. Our resilience is another kind of tectonic force, invisible but powerful, shaping the future as surely as any quake. The lullaby of restlessness. There is a strange comfort in knowing the Earth is alive. Its restlessness is the reason mountains exist, the reason oceans crash against cliffs, the reason fertile valleys bloom where rivers once carved the land. Without motion, there would be no change, no renewal, no beauty born of upheaval.
Yes, the ground trembles. Yes, the ocean sometimes rises. But within these moments of fury lies the same force that sustains life itself. The ceaseless energy of a world that refuses to be still. As you close your eyes, you might imagine that quiet heartbeat pulsing beneath you, a rhythm older than humanity, older than mountains, older even than the seas. A lullaby written in stone and time. Eternal dreaming. And so we return to the beginning, to the image of a planet resting, yet never truly asleep. A sleeping giant whose dreams ripple through every corner of the globe. The giant does not dream of us, and yet we are part of its dreaming. Our stories, our civilizations, our hopes and fears, all of them unfold on its shifting skin, carried forward by its restless turning. There is mystery in that, and there is peace. For though the ground may move, though the sea may rise, though tomorrow may bring tremors we cannot foresee, tonight the earth holds us gently. Its vast body cradles us. Its ancient rhythm rocks us toward rest. Gentle closure. And so, as you drift into sleep, remember this: beneath the silence, the earth dreams. Its heartbeat is steady, its breathing eternal. And within that endless restlessness lies the promise that life, too, will continue. Fragile, yet strong, small, yet infinite, trembling, yet unbroken. The earth is alive. The earth is dreaming. And tonight you are safe in the quiet of its eternal restlessness.